Good evening, one and all. I am Shruti Madhukar Teli from MTD1. I welcome you all to the fifth seminar of Sitara's Technology and Development Seminar Series. It's my honor to introduce the speaker of the day, Ms. Rosalind Pereira. Ma'am is the founder of Project Aamhi, a community driven rural waste management initiative based in Raigad, Maharashtra. Her work focuses on building decentralized systems for waste segregation, recovery, and reuse while creating dignified livelihoods for rural women who are too often the invisible backbone of environmental labor. Project Aamhi currently operates in 17 villages, extracting plastic waste from public spaces, facilitating segregation at source, and connecting local recyclers with community level sorting efforts. Through partnerships with panchayat, SHGs, and local businesses, the initiative nurtures circular economies and behavioral changes from the ground up. It also promotes upcycling through the creation of functional and aesthetic products made from marine and industrial waste. I now invite Ms. Rosalind Pereira ma'am to take the stage and guide us through the seminar.
Welcome. Welcome to the seminar. I am actually very impressed that so many people have signed up for a fairly unseen and unsorted problem that all of us are facing. Yes, long then. Right. So I am, as she introduced, Rosalind Pereira, and I am the co-founder of Project Aamhi. 65% of our population lives in rural areas. Yet, the conversation about rural waste management really doesn't get talked about in any developmental framework, whether national, whether local, or otherwise. Aamhi addresses that issue. It is unseen because most of the conversations vis-a-vis waste, etc., only focuses on urban problems. The rural areas are left to fend for themselves, and we'll go through this presentation and you'll see in fairly different parameters. Let's talk a little bit about Project Aamhi. This, when I see this, when anybody sees this, this is a sign that something is going wrong. The formation of these huge monsters, small ones in some villages, big ones, really huge ones like the Deonar, there is a systemic problem. Let's have a look at what we do in a very tiny way and probably look at solutions. So Project Aamhi looks at rural waste. It's a rural waste initiative. Over the past few years, maybe the past 10 years or so, one has seen an increase in plastic and non-biodegradable waste in rural areas. The lines between rural areas and urban areas are blurred now because of connectivity, because of people going, to and fro, because of, the migration to the city and vice versa. There is a very interesting and solid rule called the Solid Waste Management Rule of 2016, a fabulous document. And if anybody is interested, please read it, go through it. They've outlined the parameters of waste management at the local level, at the ground level, at the panchayat level, at the block level. And so it's a well-documented, well-crafted document. Sadly, it's not followed, neither in the rural areas or in the urban areas. Typically, when we look at development in a village, you look at the health, you look at the infrastructure that is bifurcated between the local panchayats or the ULCBs, the taluka level, the district level, and so on and so forth. But there often is the developmental framework is very fragmented. Often there's a joke in the village that I come from. The lines are being set up for the water under the Jal Jeevan mission, and the contractor is very happy, and all the lines have been put. But the tank has still not been constructed because the tank is given to some other department. Okay, so what happens is a lot gets the slip between the cracks is fairly evident, causing these huge. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about in rural India, uh, and something we don't see in urban areas, the caste system is fairly significant and very strong. And unfortunately for us, the caste system is in such a way that the lower classes are only, are the ones to clean. So though one contributes to the waste, we expect somebody else from the lower caste to clean. It's a fairly entitled view, but that is the reality. Waste is in rural areas. It's not only a social economic and or a political problem, but it is also a logistical issue. In urban areas, say you guys in IIT, right? You guys, everybody generates waste. If you take your waste and chuck it at the bottom of your building, I was walking through the campus and it was fairly clean. Somebody will say, "Hey, pick that up," right? There is a paucity of place in urban areas. In rural areas, that's not a problem. You have a house, you have your, you just take your waste and you just chuck it at the back, you chuck it into the sea, you chuck it at the side of the road. No one is watching, no BMC, no city developmental agencies looking. So logistically, there is, to do a waste management effort in a rural area, one has to look at large areas of, I mean, each village is about 3 to 4 kilometers. So it's a logistical issue going to these areas and looking at waste. Um, Aamhi was born in 2021 by the 4 women who are second home owners, including me. It was a post-COVID kind of effort where we actually were living in the rural areas, and we started looking at living in the village from the standpoint of a person who lives there, not somebody who comes in on the weekend and goes away. So the vision was very clear. It needed to be community driven. It couldn't be an isolated small little program. It had to be a community level program. We'll go through the milestones later on as we see. So we looked at, Aamhi was born in 2021. We were obviously looking at huge amounts of plastic and non-biodegradable waste, which was in the system, and a need to look for solutions. With Raigad, because it is inherently a coastal area, we have the problem of tourism which is new, and the influx of tourists, while it benefits some of the local villagers, it often is, they're very blinded by the short-term economic gains and not looking at how holistically to develop a system where development, even from the paradigm of tourism, can go hand in hand with a structured development. So we started off in 2021. Somewhere down the line, the Zilla Parishad heard about us. It was very important that the Zilla Parishad recognized Aamhi as a partner because it gave us a foot in the door with addressing waste at the village level. So, when you have an MOU with a Zilla Parishad, then you go and to deliver a service becomes easier. We started collecting waste from common areas and towards the end of the last year, we also started looking at inorganic waste, sorry, organic waste, and looking at composting. We'll go through that later. Um, so Aamhi, over the past couple of years, has developed a model. And Aamhi was always designed to develop a model which can be replicated in different blocks. So to have a one organization looking at a very large area was not viable, because it's just, we spoke about how, the distances are fairly odd. So the idea was to develop a model, test it for a couple of years, and then replicate it in every block. Uh, we use the word decentralized MRF, micro MRF, which is a material recovery facility, where the actual nuts and bolts of segregation and recycling happen. Now, to prevent the carbon footprint of a lot, to traverse, these large distances, if tiny small MRFs are formed in every cluster of village, it becomes easier for to get on our activity. Abhi was always very clear that we would operate on a shoestring budget, where we don't have any huge far big offices or the kind. We plow back at least 70 to 80% of our revenue into labor. Labor is, there's no problem if labor in rural areas. What we offer is a viable labor with decent working conditions, and the kind. Uh, we also, towards the end of our, when you will look at the phases that we work in, we also look at circular economy. So on you collect, you segregate, and you try and plow back some of the material back into the system, so that it can, you extend its life. So we look at how we do that. We also figured that to get realistic change, we need an intervention at the schooling level. So part of Aamhi's work is towards sensitizing kids at the block level through the Zilla Parishad schools, where we run a Green Warrior program, where we teach the kids about the different kinds of waste, and then we incentivize them to bring in their waste that comes from their homes for recycling. And of course, we incentivize them by giving them, it's not monetary, but things like that kids like pencils and erasers and stationery and stuff like that. Uh, right. So we looked at the reason why Aamhi's model is designed to be a replicable model. It goes beyond the conventional approach. Now, the conventional approach, typically, if there is to sweep it under the carpet, to collect it, sweep it under the carpet, burn it, and just look the other way. So Aamhi looks at collecting, segregating, and trying to recycle and upcycle as much as what we can. Our emphasis always is on rural employment, so that this becomes a viable form of employment in the rural areas. And if it is a structured environment, then it can become a really interesting stream for local areas. I'd like to take you guys to the first phase of what Aamhi does. So in our first phase, which typically would run anywhere between 6 to 8 months, we just go into common areas. So you're talking about roads, beaches, playgrounds, drains, landfills, and extract the plastic. The plastic then is segregated, and you can see that, you can see the beach where it is clean. So what happens is, when people see cleaner beaches, they say, hey, it's quite clean, or they see a cleaner road. There is some sort of an understanding that, hey, it can be taken away and it can be done. You don't need to burn it. Another thing, what we do is, the areas that we work in, we stop the burning of waste. And even if the burning happens, we get the MPCB in, we get the local fire brigades, we stop the burning of waste so that the waste that is collected in landfills is visible. Somebody will look at it. People passing by will say, hey, this is the waste, and oh, it's growing, right? That is our phase one, where we do not interact with the community, but we quietly go about cleaning the areas weekly, daily, depending on the density of waste. In the second phase, we liaise with the ULCBs or the panchayats. We go to the panchayats and say, hey, you guys have seen how clean it is, and they're often very happy to have us there. So we explain to them that all that comes to the roads or the playgrounds have been generated from homes. So let us intervene at that level. So our first intervention is only separating dry waste. So we give them infrastructure like Jola bags, and we say, you put your dry waste here, we'll come in once a week and we'll pick it up. The quantum of waste going to the dump reduces. We also look at parallelly, our school program starts. So the kids come home and say, hey, this is what we learned at school today, and this is plastic, and by burning it, there's a lot of smoke which is carcinogenic and the kind. So at the third plug is we go to the bulk producers, like your stores, your eateries, hotels, and then we say to them that this is it's very easily done. It's no major technology. It is just one simple shift. It's actually just a simple shift of putting your dry in one place and putting your wet in one place. But it is so difficult to break into that habit that we still, even now, after 3.5 years of working in this one area, we have only 40% of segregation, which is far better than Bombay. Bombay only has 11%, that also award. So, well, yeah, so that's what we do. And the system that we try to, so we go to door, and the villages that have a ghanta gadi, or like, what we see in villages, in cities. So we put our different segments, the dry segment, the wet segment, and the sanitary segment. So we start collecting waste. What we also do is we maintain data. We maintain data so that we can go back to the administration and say XYZ is giving mixed waste, XYZ is giving dry waste. So incentivize, XYZ is not buying into the program. We also do that to analyze, to look at solutions. So collecting data is a big thing, and we're very serious about it. In our third phase, we go into, we look at a circular waste management system, where the waste of the waste, the wet and the dry waste, is separated. Part of the waste is upcycled. We look at fabric waste. In 17 small villages in Raigad, we collect around a ton and a half of clothes every month, and that typically would have otherwise gotten burnt. So we make them into, I mean, part of it gets donated back to Gunj after being sterilized and sanitized, but the ones that are torn, we make into double-layered market bags, which we use to incentivize the villagers to segregate at source. We also, the wet waste component is composted. We follow a traditional composting method, no major technology, just underground pits, and using carbon, which is abundant in villages in the form of dried leaves, and nitrogen in the form of cattle, cow dung and stuff like that. We also use these upcycled products, as I said, to incentivize people to segregate waste. It's not a big thing, but getting one nice bag, people say, okay, I will keep waste for you the next week. So our processes are, I'll just explain our processes after we collect it. we go to our material recovery center and we segregate it into 13 different parameters. You know, in recycling, is such a fairly developed industry that only a particular kind of waste is processed by a particular industry. So thermocol will only be done by people who have the thermocol machinery. Multi-layer plastic will only be segregated in by and be recycled by a multi-layer facility. So we segregate our waste, we accumulate it till we have one load, and then we send it for recycling. The compost pits we have looked at, and the clothes which are almost which are good enough to go, gets donated back to the community and donated to NGOs like Gunj, and then we make bags. We also rely very heavily on IEC, which is talking to people about waste, talking to people, and just getting their attention to look at being responsible for your waste. In Marathi, we say amchi waste, amchi zimedari. So amchi kachra, amchi zimedari. Our waste, our responsibility. So we work in 17 odd villages in the Murud block. And these villages, as you see, they're primarily coastal villages. Lots of tourism and the new connectivity. All of you have heard about the Ro-Ro and, the Atal Setu. So that brings in hordes of tourists who want to come in, want to have a nice time, but land up leaving their footprint in terms of waste packages and really badly organized system. These are the villages that we had, and we have shown about what is the work that we do. In some villages, we look at only public areas. They're obviously in the phase 1. Then we look at villages we do the dry collection, phase 2. And then we have just 2 villages, Danga and Usroli, which we do the entire program, which is wet waste, upcycling, and composting. Operational ethos, I have gone through with you guys. This is a picture of how we transport our goods to a recycler. We are around 170 kilometers away from any recycling hub. So get plastic, as all of you know, is fairly light in weight. So that needs to be compressed, and it has to be so that it becomes viable for us to send it to some recycler. So what we do is we boil it and then we send it out for recycling. In the last year, a few numbers, 131 tons has been extracted from our villages. We've done a math, and this is 179 kiloliters of water has got saved as a result of this. We're talking about CO2, which unfortunately is not there on this, but there's 2483 tons of CO2 has got prevented as a result of interception at that range. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to the revenue that we have got, 4.9 rupees per kg for 131 metric tons. We'll look at how it affects and where, and there's a gap in our thing. So you look at the kind of, I'd like to demonstrate the kind of waste that we find. So you can see 43 tons is MLP, LDP, raffia, net, HDPE. So in labor, everyone is aware of all these, or should I explain? So you have MLP is your kurkure, LDP. Any takers for LDP? Anyone can? Yeah, but in terms of what in terms of actual, so your polythene bags, raffia, woven gunny sacks that we get, cement sacks, raffia. net is fishing nets, coastal village. So we get a lot of, and HDPE, anyone guys?
The transparent
Yes, but
plastic.
where would you find it? What you would find it in? PVC pipes, but that's unlikely. You can't find it in the waste. But typically, everyday use shampoo bottles, washing, right? So that's HDPE. A lot of that. And look at the second one, which says PET and other plastic. Look at the amount of PET and other plastic that we're getting compared to this MLP HDPE segment. We'll see why this affects our program. So plastic, PET bottles, beer cans, metals, which we saw in our previous slide, which we're getting very little of, right? Now, these are the highly recyclable components and therefore high in demand. But as you can see, very low available in the environment. Any guesses why you see so little of PET, and
Because
or
it
rather
fetches
we find so
value.
little of PET and
Because it fetches value.
someone is talking.
Because it fetches value. It has, like, if you go to a scrap dealer, you get value for that. You get money against it.
Someone is responding to the question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we have.
So,
Maybe
because it fetches value.
yes. So anyone out here who can come up with why we are finding so little of PET bottles and these highly recyclable items? Why Aamhi finds so little of them of it? Is it because it's not being produced? Yeah. Absolutely. So because it is high value, it's not left in the system, right? So that's one of the reasons why we don't find it, right? Now, what really makes these products high value and MLP, LDP, raffia net low value? Not necessarily. Anything,
Easy to
most of the things can be
recyclable.
recycled. Probably there's just not enough of thought into developing strategies to look at it. Now, the PET bottles are in use because the industry standard is that for every 1,000, I don't know the exact percentage, but X amount has to be used of recycled plastic. So your Coca-Colas and your Pepsis have to use a percentage of it. So there is a demand created. Unfortunately, there's no demand created in terms of MLPs, LDPs, cement sacks. I've not heard of any program where the cement companies have been told that, you have to use X amount of your cement bags, it should be recycled, right? So the reason so it is a systemic reason why we still find these products in the environment, which is why it is unseen. No one talks about it. So to look at ways to get some attention for these unsung products, we have collaborated with, we looked at, I'm just going to take you to the next one. We looked at the fabrics that have been recycled. So we collaborate with Hexaware, where we transform these clothes into bags. Now, these bags are given out as incentive to organization, to homes. We also try and sell them. We also are creating a demand for this in a small little way, right? We know that now X village, we will have to, so they will want it, and therefore more can be extracted and more can be diverted, right? if we multiply this formula many hundred times, I'm thinking the other 400 odd villages in the Raigad block, there's never going to be a problem of the clothes just thrown around, right? We also have collaborated. See, we have to have solid backing. If we go to the government and say that, hey, what we are getting is low value waste. Low value waste becomes low value because we have not systemically created a value for it, right? We need data. So we've collaborated with Tress Vista, a financial service company, and we have a dashboard. So every gram of plastic that is picked up from any of our villages, we can tell you where that bag is from. In any village that we go in, we can say what is the composition of waste that has been picked up, how much has been picked up, what is the periodicity of it. So with that sort of data, we can talk to development, we can talk to the government, and we hopefully will have some sort of change. We also, yeah, the women are the backbone of our processes, and local women. So here again, we are creating a demand. So here is an organization that has a respectable job, payments come on time, that all the the safety equipment is there, and all the things that people would require in a job we are providing. So we've created a organization where people can actually say that, hey, like construction work or like agriculture, this is a viable form of employment. So we are creating a demand, and then people can. And we've always felt, and the NABARD study shows, that when women get employed, the social status, the economic status, and the education of the family is increased. So that's the cornerstone of our work. Uh, I think we diverted 6,514 kgs of waste that was marked to either be chucked into the sea or to be burnt. So we've made them into bags. It was a very simple solution, nothing very sophisticated, but it is a solution that works. We need to look at solutions like this in the other parameters as well, the other segments of waste. In 2000 and in the next year, what we look at, what we want to plug in some of our processes and try and expand them to more of the villages. We want to I think someone's battery is. We want to diversify. So now that we have learned that we can do this with fabric, we want to expand this to plastic, to MLP, to other forms of waste that can be recycled. We're also looking at more of composting units, probably at home units or block units, where you're preventing, you're at source, you're trying to segregate the wet and dry, which makes the dry level more recyclable. And then once people get into the habit, it becomes easier to, have intervention. Right. So why do we see things like this? A bad, dirty beach. There are rules which we have looked at. We have talked about the 2016 solid waste management rules, but it's just not implemented. There is a gap. At the local level, often it is people are just, okay, a compost pit bana diya. There's just a tick mark. Is that compost pit being used? Nobody sees it, right? So, and a lot of the you have this thing called the EPR, or the extended producer responsibility. Often any production company has to plow back X amount of money into producer responsibility, but they will only do it where it is visible. 65% of India lives in rural villages, but that EPR will not go to those areas because, no one gets the eyeballs in rural areas. We have a hard time getting funds for our programs because we are in a rural area. Uh, the so the policy is there, but the enforcement is really poor. I just find there's like a big gap because of the enforcement. Whereas in the village level, the ULCBs is a politically, they're politically, they're elected, right? So they will not go to an extent to look or address the waste management system because there is an inherent, people don't want to deal with waste management. So it's a very unpopular move. So leaving the waste management in the hands of a locally elected ULCB, to my mind, is really bad planning because they are from the community. How are you going to tell your neighbor that, hey, I am the sarpanch, you please, segregate wet and dry. If you do not segregate wet and dry, I will fine you. They don't want to do it. You need a party's intervention, and we have a third party. We have the MPCB. We have the MPCB who will not act. Right. So, I would like to really talk about some critical questions. We just addressed the issue of low value, high value. We looked at how do we incentivize low waste. We looked at wages. We looked at incentives. I would like to throw open this question to you all. We've looked at the waste, the different kinds of waste that we see. We've looked at some, 43 or so metric tons of very low value waste that is available in the system. 43 metric tons. How do we look at plugging the gap? What are your thoughts on it? Where do you all see this going? Plastic is something that is not going away. It's going to be there for 500 odd years. Plastic continues to be sold in secondary packaging, primary packaging. The government has looked at, actually officially in Maharashtra, plastic is banned. Did anyone know that? It's not implemented. So how do we see plastic in the near future? What happens? So there are a few fragmented, small little organizations who do upcycling or recycling of plastic. But there needs to be a state-wise or a centrally funded system where plastic becomes a raw material which can be easily, which is needed. So you are developing a need for it. There was one thing that I read a couple of days ago, a couple of years ago actually, about plastic being used in road construction. Yes, so, sometime if you can, and replacing tar, which is really expensive. I believe the Reliance Industries has done a part of a road and has tried that. Why is that not being done? So these are small, commonsensical answers to the problem. What about you guys? What do you all think that there is something that you all as these bright young minds can think about, what we can do about plastic, what we can do about thermocol? I think I met somebody who is doing a the lady out there with bio organic waste, isn't it? Is yes. So where do you all think, where is the gap? Where can this be, where can we address this issue in terms of the gap of funding? Any suggestions? Yes.
So this kind of what it was called, some terminology is there. So that kind of pollution is very rampant. If you construct road with that plastic,
Because it goes back into the water, it goes back into the water
it
source.
becomes microplastic. So that is more harmful.
That's an interesting thing. I'd never thought about it in that way. I've heard about interventions where they melt it and they make it into benches and stuff like that. I mean, like a seminar room like this, that one can probably use plastic with that. Anything else? Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Deepak. I'll keep it to that for the moment. But in that 6 hours, reduce and refuse the couple of elements on. So have you attempted reaching out to the places where the plastic material is issued for packaging for the shopkeepers, restaurants, or hotel owners to consider reduce and refuse, both for refuse by the tourists and reduce by the people who are offering these plastics? So in a way, that's an answer as well as a question.
It is an answer to a lot of questions. Reduce and refuse is probably a very commonsensical and a very, but the problem is that in India, when you go to, say in a village, okay, you go to one store and they say that, no, you please bring your own plastic bag. The other store will incentivize that or probably cash in on that. For something like reducing and refusing, you need some sort of like a GR at the block level, where you ban plastic as or you ban a particular, the really thin plastic, or you make it imperative that everyone has to carry their own bags. It can be done, but again, it's a non-popular move. This would be executed by the ULCB. The village elects the ULCB. Why would the ULCB take this step? Because it's unpopular. The next election, they're not going to. So something like this needs to come from the MPCB, or it needs to come from the Zilla Parishad, isn't it? So, but that's a very, very interesting point. I think it can be done if there is the right direction directed by the block. Anyone else? Thank you.
Just continuing, you mentioned interaction, collaboration with Zilla Parishad. Did you also mention collaborations with Gram Panchayats in your slides, and how was the experience?
So the Zilla Parishad is an apex body that everybody knows, and they look at different blocks. Villages are connected to every block, and then they have a block development officer and the Zilla Parishad. Zilla Parishad is the apex body, which is answerable to the divisional office. Now, what happens is, since we went to and signed an MOU with the Zilla Parishad, the rest of the blocks had to follow suit. So we got our entry into the different blocks. But what happens is, there is a block development officer, and it depends on the block development officer how sensitized he is. How much of, typically the block development officer also will see what is in it, is it for me? Is it fame? Is it something to be, recognition? Is it the other things that they typically will look at? But yes, so through the block development officer, you get in touch with the ULCBs or the villages. And depending on how open they are to, or how serious really they are about development, depending on their definition of development, we get our entry in the in. So if you remember the slide which we talked about, what we are doing in all the 17 villages that we work in, there are only 2 villages that we are doing the wet waste segregation. Now, any ideas why? Why? Anyone has any thoughts on why we're doing it only in 2 villages and not the rest? Think about it. Where does waste get generated? Wet waste get generated? In the kitchens. Yeah. So what happens
Where
is
there are the
kitchen-
commercial
the
establishments,
kitchens run
probably.
by women, right? Women are very fixed about the way that they want to conduct, how they, their kitchen, their waste, etc. The wet waste is often, I mean, you buy a packet of masala, you pick up the masala, cut it, and you chuck it. Then you chuck your vegetables. Then you chuck your. So what happens is, to break into that habit at that micro level, from a real basic, your cooking, the way you cook, the nuts and bolts of a kitchen is very difficult. And that has taken us 3 years in Nandgaon and Usroli to break into the women, to that micro level. It is the most difficult part of our work, the last mile, when we go to people and say wet has to be separate, dry has to be separate. The minute you mix wet and dry, the chances of recycling become so removed, because there's a lot of contamination. Also, and then there is nothing, it really can only go into the dump. And once it goes to the dump, it's there for the next 500 years. It also collects methane, and then the dumps they ignite, and sometimes and most often it is also systematically burnt, so that becomes very difficult. But let's go back to our problem questions, which of course it's really interesting to meet a bunch of students all from IIT, fine thinkers, but my and I was saying this to Pankaj, that it'll be really nice to see, to look at this from a different perspective. I'd love to hear from you guys. Where do you think can we, how can we create a demand for low value waste, and look at what we can do about it?
Before we answer, can we give you a round of applause? Let me formally thank you, Rosalind, for that. What I find very interesting is the granularity of working at that small scale and figuring out one step at a time in such a large kind of mosaic of what really fits and what works. So, and I think that's as important as the big policy and the big solutions. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation and for speaking to all of us. And like we always do, we'll open it up now to her, now that we've applauded her and thanked her so much. Yeah, we can have whoever wants to ask a question, ask a difficult question, answer some of these questions. Yeah, answer some of these questions. That what she was telling me before we began is that yes, but that there's a huge technology gap, and there's a role for technology to be employed and for technology to play a role. And her hope is that she might get some answers or some ways forward, and also for us to think for ourselves and think along with her. So yeah, any questions, any thoughts? I'll just come to you if there's nobody else. He's always the opening batsman.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Omkar. I'm a 5th year PhD student over here. My research work is in energy, but very interesting talk. Thanks a lot. So I have a question and kind of answer also. I don't know. Like I saw the map and I see all these locations are very much connected to Alibag, which is a tourist place. So I wonder if from your activities, Alibag being the hotspot of tourism, are they learning something from your activities? Because they might be doing something differently at their level for recycling and all. That is one question. I also see answer for your question that where we can open the market for your activities, because you are saying that right now you are preparing those bags and giving back simply as a incentive, but then the more market will be at a tourist place where many people are coming over there, and if with this bags, if your activity is getting marketized, maybe more words, the larger word can be spread over there, and then they can pick up and maybe some of the capacity building activities. So one thing is doing this activity at a local level, but if more capacity building is started at a place like Alibag, because in Alibag, people are not coming only from urban area. There are people coming from the rural areas also, because this is tourist spot. So if they learn something from each activity over here, they go back to their own rural areas and start this activity. Might be the network maybe spread. So that is the.
It's thank you for that question and the answer, but very interesting. So Alibag, we are in the Murud block, which is the sister block of Alibag. Alibag is under MMRDA, right? But when I talk to you guys about our Aamhi model, it is a replicable model, and we've already replicated it in one village in the Alibag Taluka, in Avas, where we have looked at. We're right now in stage 1. We are only doing the common areas, and we are going to start the door-to-door collection. So the whole idea of the Aamhi model, it's not major high on technology. It's no big offices, no conveyor belts, just simply a Safai Sati and a bag and the infrastructure and the thing to segregate it and send it. We've already duplicated this model in 2 areas. One is in Alibag and the other one is Nagaon, if anyone has heard about it. It's a large, big thing. We have duplicated the model in these 2 villages. And our whole, in fact, we've been invited by the divisional commissioner's office to replicate it in Raigad and Sindhudurg. In Sindhudurg and Ratnagiri. So we are looking at it. And the minute you say that, 70% is going to go back into labor. Labor is local labor. So that's an incentive for the area. We don't want really major big offices. We don't want CEOs. We don't want conveyor belts. We don't want machines. Our mandate is very clear. We will collect, we will segregate, and we will send to recycling. We're not doing it ourselves. We're piggybacking on the industry that knows how to do it. We're not reinventing the wheel. Yeah, so it's a very simple, but your idea of making it visible in the tourist areas, the Aamhi bags, is very, very interesting. And I'm going to work on it. And thank you for it. It's a very good suggestion.
Very good evening. I'm Praveen and doing my second year PhD student. My question is, you said you are short of funds, but right now, how you are managing all these financial affairs? Thank you.
Okay. I should have actually, in hindsight, while I was going through the presentation with you guys, and we were talking about gaps in funding, I said, damn, I should have added that one financial thing slide. So when we collect all this waste and we sell it, somewhere in the presentation, you all may have seen that we get back 4.9 rupees per kg. But our cost of collection, segregation, and transport to the recycling hub is 59 rupees. So there's a gap of 55 rupees. So how we do that is very simple. This being a coastal area, we have second homes, people who have farmhouses. So we went to these people, it's a group of 200 odd people, and we say that, hey, this is what we do. We look at common areas, you'll have cleaner places. A lot of them are very sensitized to the environment. They come to areas like this because they want it clean. So at 1,500 rupees per month, they give us a subscription and we get around 10% of our funding through that source. Another 10% comes from, another 8 to 9% comes from sale of our bags as well as the sale of the goods. The rest comes from CSR funds. So we go to various industries, we talk to them. Some of them, like the Godrej Industries, through the EPR, they sponsor part of our transportation. We go to other CSR organizations and make project proposals and go to them. Also, through family, friends. It is a long-standing joke, and I have developed a thick skin. I go to anybody and say, boss, please give me funds. I have developed a terribly thick skin. The Tata Mumbai Marathon is also a big funding avenue. We have runners, including my family, who run, and then we get funds from there. So yeah, it is difficult. And actually the question that you have not asked, but I will answer it, do we get government funds? No, there is no fund available. But what the government does give us and takes away without asking is infrastructure. So sometimes we get, it all depends on the block development officer and which side of the bed he has woken up at. So, sometimes we get infrastructure, sometimes we don't. But we get by aligning with the government and their their forms thing, it's a lot to be gained. You cannot do this in isolation of the government, whether it is at the local level, state level, or national level. You cannot. So, yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah. Certainly lots of questions. Yeah, we'll take Gayatri at the back, then we'll take the middle row. Great.
Yeah, hi, I'm Gayatri. I'm TD first year student. So you talked about how the government, definitely the government role is very important. So, and then you also mentioned collaboration with the block development officer. So was there any situation where you like, so where you discussed with the video that this is the amount of change or impact that we're making. So maybe we should have collaboration more than what we're already supporting you with. So like, can you like give details about maybe like if you can about why they're not ready to give funds? Because even the Gram Panchayat does have good amount of funds that can be allotted for such things, and like the BDF also and doing it because it's like, is it because of it's an entity that is not government? That is one thing, and also was there an open talk and what your needs and how they impact us in real life?
So, at the start of our of my conversation with you guys, we talked about that this under the development, when you look at development, waste is not really accounted, is not recognized as for there to be a need for infrastructure, building of infrastructure about waste. And even if there is an infrastructure developed, it is not really thought about. They do not want to have, it's not really constructed in consultation with people, with experts in the area. For example, a very simple thing, the Ghanta Gadi. All of us know what a Ghanta Gadi is, right? A Ghanta Gadi has two segments. You're supposed to, under the solid waste management rules, to segregate left, dry and wet, right? You're giving the infrastructure, but are you monitoring it? You're not monitoring it. So then what happens? In both the compartments, mixed waste happens, and then we saw what the landfill looks like, right? So very often, to answer specifically about the BDO, yes, Fortunately, we have got a really good and dynamic video now after like 2.5 years of weeping. So the BDOs, the block development officers are also will support initiatives which have tangible, like they will give you a billing machine, but they will not provide they will not sponsor one more person on a village ghanta gadi who will ensure 15,000 rupees a month, who will ensure people segregate. So you'll buy an 8 lakh rupee vehicle, but you will not put in that the systems in place to optimize the use of the vehicle. So it's very fragmented. And they will not take, I mean, somebody somewhere in some department said that, oh, we should have dustbins in all villages. So there were dustbins in all villages procured. And all the dustbins became full of mixed waste. That waste started getting rotted. Nobody was ready to touch it. So now there are these huge mountains of waste around the dustbins. There should not be any dustbins. In Japan, there are no dustbins. You buy a packet of chips. You figure out how you are going to recycle. There'll be one somewhere, or you take it back home, right? Unless there is strict enforcement of segregation, you cannot create public spaces because it becomes a big dump. It's as simple as that. There was someone else.
It was a lovely presentation about your organization. Yeah, I'm Swarna. I am a PhD first year student from Desai School of Entrepreneurship. And I've previously worked on waste, so quite interesting of your model. But I also wanted to know are we locating tourists in this model? Like it's through your model, what I could get is the core responsibility is with the locals who are managing the waste and trying to generate income out of it. But somewhere it's the responsibility of the tourists coming to this place, especially when we are talking about Rev Danda or Avas or Nagaon for the potential of increasing tourism in the coming years. So how do we see tourists being the responsible for this? Because if we see Sikkim or other states, they already have a responsible tourism guidelines or very effective models for running it. If we could inculcate it in your project, it will be better.
Absolutely. That's a very interesting point. See, the systems or the methods that a tourist will conduct also depends on what you kind of outline, right? So if you say, yes, there is a surcharge collected from tourists, say in the Kashid area. So they give that 10 rupees and they come, right? But if you don't make it clear that, this is an eco-sensitive area, which Raigad is. There is the olive ridley turtle. There are a whole load of, the pangolins. So it is a very eco-sensitive area. If there is something that can be said that, this is an eco-sensitive area, therefore respect nature and, segregate wet and dry, yes, that's perfect. But that needs to be done at the block level or at the taluka level or at even at the Maharashtra tourism level, where you have IEC programs for tourists so that, it's responsible consumption and the kind. But it's a very interesting thing. That's something definitely that I'm going to take home and probably do. We've not probably given it too much of emphasis, but that's very interesting. Yeah. But thank you. Thank you for that.
I'm myself John Mandy. I am a PhD student here. I also work at a company. So because I'm a self-finance candidate, the company's name is Zecomi. So Zecomi is a waste aggregator company. So what we do is we basically auction So there is a buyer and seller system. So if you are you are a seller in this case, when you collect all this data, well, there is auctions that happen with various recyclers on a dashboard or on an online platform. I am still yet to look into it, but that is probably a place where you may get more value, more monetary value, and there are other competitors as well, not just Zecomi. That is one thing I wanted to say. Probably a solution for you. Can look into it. Second thing is, do you look into e-waste, the electronic waste, because that is something that generates a very big value. That is our focus in a way. Then the tourism thing, I would like to extend it in a way that ecotourism initiatives will in a way force the locals keep their premises clean if that generates revenue. I think the Oliver Reed turtles, the turtle festival of Velas is an example for that. So that is something that can probably be a solution. And the last thing I wanted to ask, sorry, there are two more. One is carbon credits. That is also one place where probably you can again generate revenue because now it is being enforced and there is a monetary possibility there. The last thing is the Aamhi dashboard that you talked about. Isn't that a costly thing with respect to maintaining or managing it? Is there a benefit associated with it for you regarding CSR or whatever? That's it. Yeah. Thank you.
So to the Aamhi dashboard, when we apply to any corporate for a CSR grant, they often talk about transparency. The Aamhi dashboard addresses that, where, and it is a CSR funded activity where they second people to develop the dashboard for us. So it's we don't spend anything. We only have to have one person who is monitors the dashboard and digitizes all our records, and then it gets filled in. But transparency is really important for us, not only to get CSR funds, but also to when you're interfacing with the government. And you say that this is what we have collected. This village is giving XYZ. This village is giving XYZ. And then also in terms of feedback for us about our services, when you actually analyze, then you say that, okay, this village, we have not, obviously there is waste lying out in this village, which this village gives us, we collect or we extract 2 tons of waste. And this month we have got 1.5 tons of waste. Why is it? Let's good. So it also looks at, helps us look at our systems. It is, so we are really grateful for Tres Vista. We could have never, ever afforded something like this. And now that the model is there and it's set, we are going to, by the end of this year, we will have 1 full year's data and we will roll it out to other villages. And the minute you have transparency, then people will come forward to support you. We have nothing to hide. So why? About e-waste, thankfully, we don't get e-waste. It is a rural area, and I'm really grateful that we don't get e-waste, which is great. But e-waste is not a problem because it's highly recyclable. So, if it can be extracted, it gets recycled. I think there are a lot of organizations, but I do want to get your contact from Pankaj, and I do want to talk about the platform because, we used to work with one organization which had this platform and they would, they couldn't keep it afloat and they had to move back to Hyderabad from what I hear. But that is something that it's definitely worth looking at. Thank you. Thank you. Was there anything else that I had to address? Was there another one? E-waste? Even if it is that it's high value, right? So we don't get access to it. The Bhangarwala and the Kavadewala has already taken it. It's not left in the environment. It's highly recyclable.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm Sashwat. I'm a second year PhD student. So my question is related to the tourism and the funds factor. So this is a very tourist popular area, the whole district of Raigad. So there is this village in Meghalaya called Molinong. Its selling point is it's the cleanest village in Asia.
Yeah.
So can a similar model be implemented here? And can this visibility be a factor for getting more funds?
Yeah, absolutely. There's also, all of you have heard about Vengurla. It has happened in Vengurla. All it took was one dynamic IS officer who said that I do not want waste on the road. You will segregate at source. The minute you have that mandate and you tell the block development officers, you find it, you fine. Right? But the fact is that that has been given, keeping the place clean, waste management, which is what I addressed, has been given, the mandate has been given to the ULCBs, right? The ULCBs are elected by the people. They will not go against the wishes of the people, of the rural people who feel that waste should be dealt with only by the lower castes. Unless you have firm laws that are enforced in place. India is the only probable place where we have to find people to save their lives wearing a helmet, right? So there has to be a systemic enforcement of the solid waste management rules. All it will take is one dynamic person to say that this has to stop. Thank you.
We have one question online. We take the online question. Can you do that? Yeah. Then we come to the other people. Yeah, Deepak, and you also have it. Yeah. Also ask them to introduce. Yeah. Then you need the mic there, or we can hear.
Hello, Priya. Can you please?
So can you just type the question? Can you take the question? Also, name the person.
There's a question by Ankur Kulkarni. He wants to know that how much of the waste is locally generated and how much of it comes from passing traffic, tourist cars, passing buses, etc. So that's the question.
So fortunately, waste is anonymous. Whether it's often left at the roads or in the Ghanta Gadi, but we're working towards, and I'll let you on a little secret, we're working towards making waste not anonymous anymore. We're working towards developing a QR system at the home level to track where waste is coming from. Right now, we don't have data on where the waste is coming from, but to make people accountable, we need to have data. We need to go and we need to say that this hotel is giving the mixed waste which lands up in the dump or the landfill, right? So right now, there is no data which can bifurcate from locals to tourists. But I can tell you this, that in areas which have low tourist population, the amount of waste that we see is much less than areas that have high tourist. This very simple comparison I'll give you. Nagaon is a big tourist area. The number of Ghanta Gadis that service that area are 6 rounds of Ghanta Gadis. And Usroli, the area that we do our wet waste collection, does not even have a Ghanta Gadi. We only collect 2 cans, 25 kg cans of wet waste, and the dry waste is collected. So just the comparison, tourism brings in a lot of waste, and there's no secret about that.
Hello, I'm online. Can I talk to you now?
No, he's not there.
Hello?
Okay.
So I am Somdeep Kundu here. Yeah. And I am a PhD student, second year in Setara, and I am of Rural Data Research and Analytics lab of Sitara only. So I am very curious about this. What is this Green Warrior program for the kids? So if you can say a little about it. And another thing, what I have seen with my like little perspective, that is this throwing waste anywhere. It's a very much generational thing. If you see our young generation, they are very much aware. If you could provide those kind of segregation from the beginning and hear the knowledge about that, how people are thinking, that last point, that behavioral thing. So from beginning, we are being exposed from our school days with the environmental science. And here in IIT also, I have attended TD 613. That gives a, like it's a course about ecology and environment. So this give you a like mind concept about your footprint, a scale, a catchment you which you a water footprint, carbon footprint, those kind of things. This like behavioral thing, that was a last one. So how you are working with the kids and education sector, if you have any. Thanks.
So we take the Green Warrior program very seriously. What happens at the home level is that when plastic comes into the rural homes, it is often used as a fire starter because now you don't get kerosene in the open market, right? So what we do is we run a half-an-hour program every week in every class of the Zilla Parishad schools, where we talk to them about waste, about waste as a demon, different in play, script, and stuff. We teach them how to identify non-recyclable waste and recyclable waste. Then what we say to them is, you bring it to us, we'll give you a token. At the end of the month, you can encash your token for something that you'd want. Like, erasers, crayons, art material. And then at the end of the year, we plan to have a Green Warrior Champ, where in a village, we look at, typically there are 5 to 7 schools in the village. Who is the kid who has bought consistently the most amount of plastic? He becomes like a hero. And then we sponsor, quite a big sponsorship for that. We take this IEC within school programs very seriously because, as you rightly pointed out, if you tap it at the school level, then they grow to be sensitized to the problem of waste. So we plan to continue the Green Warrior program, and we plan to bring it to all the schools in the taluka. Even though we are not an educational organization, we recognize the need for education. And we've talked about places like Sikkim. It has been ingrained at the home level, at the school level. The behavioral change will not happen overnight. It either has to be ingrained or it has to be enforced. Right now, we're asking for the enforcing because we don't have the time to wait for 20 years till we have a bunch of informed citizens. We're sitting on a time bomb.
Hello.
Or you want to just one online question. Yeah, Priya, go ahead.
Can I be heard?
Yes.
Closer. Mic.
Should I go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, Rosalind. This is Priya. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, in short, I've been working in Pune with Swatch. I think you must have heard of Swatch.
Of course.
Yeah. So the model is same, what you have explained. I need your help in extending this model to Karzat area. I'm a follower of Maitri Bodh Parivar. And on behalf of that organization, I want to voluntarily help them to set up this system in Karzat villages. So how would I get support from you or help from you in implementing solid waste management?
Yeah. So Priya, we're very happy. Thank you for your question. And we are very happy, in fact, more than happy to replicate this model in other villages. And we are not going to be constrained geographically only to Raigad. So why don't you write into me at Rosalind at projectaamhi.com, ROSALIND at
Okay.
project, PROJECT, Aamhi,
Mhm.
AAMHI.com.
All
And
right.
if possible, if anybody wants to know about us, wants more information, please use that email. We are happy to send you that information. We have a website, projectaamhi.com, AAMHI.com. We're also on Instagram, which the kids at work are really happy with. They keep putting videos and stuff like that at Project Aamhi. And what I will do is I will send Pankaj our annual report, a copy of the presentation, and we have a video that we've made to take you all to the actual project areas so that you'll see what we do. And it would be great to have, kids who are working in the probably in rural development, data. Please come to and see the work that we do. I just believe that when more minds think at a problem, you have different perspectives of addressing the issues. So I invite you. We are not far away. We are 2.5 hours away from Bombay. Through the Roro or the thing, come visit us, and I'm sure we will come up with some really good solutions. And if not, the beach is really beautiful, so please come and be responsible tourists.
So then Advika there, then Deepak wants to say a couple of things and then
Hello, ma'am.
there.
Hi, so I am
Yeah.
Advika, a PhD first year student. I just want to know one thing, that what are the healthcare facilities that are provided to the cleaning staff, particularly those who are in direct contact with the waste, particularly the plastic waste and the thermocols, because they are like respiratory, they are very harmful. So what are the things that are provided to them as a healthcare facility?
So we have gloves and we have gumboots, and we don't process the thermocol. We only collect it and put it in the bag, and then it gets which is what I said. So we leave recycling to the experts. Our job is only to collect it in a safe manner. So we have gloves, we have masks, we have gumboots. So the women who go out there are fairly well protected. During the rain, we work rain, storm, shine, whatever. We give them raincoats, we give them rakes, but we continue our work. But we leave the recycling of it to the experts. We are in no way even position ourselves to be even know how to recycle the plastic. That's a job for the experts, and they should be. I mean, they should be let to do it.
Yeah. Thank you. I spent 4 years in IIT Bombay, part of electrical engineering department. This was between 2012 and 16. I want to call myself an alumni, but I do not have the certificate of having done research work here. I quit my PhD program in electrical engineering. I've had an urban upbringing.
Giving them wrong ideas.
But yeah, it was necessary part of my introduction. I've had a fairly urban upbringing, but last 4 years of my life, I have had a kind of a Jagriti Yatra for myself by spending time in the rural Karjat belt, Neral, Wangni, villages in Karjat belt. I want to take a clue from the presentation about the narratives and the visuals. You have referred to the people who work with you as Safai Sathis. I realized the language that I was that I was surrounded with at my home and other places, referring to the Safai Sathis as Kachre Walas, as a most dominant narrative that I started to reflect upon. So all of this happened because I took a pause, and this is my message for all of us: is to have a pause, and reflect the narratives that we are living with in today's times. Um, and one more reflection that I remember from IIT days was a shift in the food consumption culture here within IIT. Mess food has been a dominant food service in the campus. Yeah, mess food has been the most common food service in the campus, but in the last decade, canteens and then use of Zomato and Swiggy for consumption of food has increased as I've witnessed. So if we take a pause and reflect how much amount of non-organic waste or non-wet waste, dry waste comes up when we are entirely dependent on mess food, how much how much paper and plastic waste gets generated when we eat food from the canteens, and how much more packaging comes in with Zomato and Swiggy. So this could be a self-reflection exercise for people who are residing in the campus, and then wonder that we can take this dialogue ahead by reflecting how much sensitivity are we carrying in this theme. Lastly, visuals carry a powerful narrative. I want to recommend two films. One documentary and another drama feature film released in the recent time. The documentary is called Gutter Ki Machli, which which shows the state of affairs in Govandi. Govandi is one of the Devnar has large landfill, and Kanjurmarg also has had a landfill. So we are not far away from landfill. So a visit to a landfill could also help continue this dialogue within us. The feature film is Avkarika. It's a Marathi film, which where the protagonist is a Safai Sathi who witnesses the lack of common sense among the society that he witnesses. So that has struck an emotion. Both these films have struck an emotional chord within me. I hope it
Could I
do the
request
same
you to
with all.
send a text with that? I would
Yeah,
really.
thanks.
I just want to say one thing. The name of our organization is Aamhi. Aamhi means we in Marathi. And that, in a sense, carries the sense of what you have said. We are the producers of the waste. It is it's our waste, and it is our responsibility. And therefore, Aamhi, it's not you or they or, it is we. And I thought when we came up with the name, I thought that really rang true, because when you come down, the creation of that big dump doesn't happen overday or overnight. It happens with one single individual multiplied by 45,000. As simple as that. But thank you. That is fantastic.
Yeah, so wonderful presentation. I'm faculty at Sitara, and wonderful presentation indeed. Only thing is, I have a suggestion, maybe an idea, which can probably work out in the sense that you have people in uniform already. Maybe you can talk with the local collectorate office and get the rights of, organizing the crowd by creating parking lots or, ticketing them at source. Okay. And then over there, have a big banner where it is displayed that this week, this much quantity of, waste collected. And if you have some kind of display, it creates visibility. You will get CSR funding also. The government will also be interested into, marketing themselves that this initiative. And then the effect of clean beach would certainly be appreciated, but all of that requires revenue. So main problem is, I can see it's a revenue generation, and that has to be taken from the people who access it. So be it the people who are creating, any sales or marketing over there, or especially the people who are visiting. And mostly they would be visiting in vehicles. So if you can create a parking space and, cordon some space, and along with the ticketing, as well as having additional, fund capped on it, just for the collection and all expenses that you have, that would really help you generate revenue.
So that's a very interesting point you have raised. Unfortunately, parking and organizing the traffic is big money. And where there is big money, there are many big players. Often in villages, the parking areas which are adjoining the beaches are controlled by the ULCB. And the ULCB uses it as a revenue stream. I think there will be blood and gore if Aamhi says that, okay, give us the parking charge. It's huge money. It's big money. So getting those parking rights, which will probably be the answer for our gap in funding. But they don't want to give it up easily, you know. We are not. But it's I think wearing an armored suit, I might consider going. No, but having said that, it is a very good suggestion. Even if they hear us the first time, maybe something will
Can we just as a pilot project
in one village. Yeah.
in terms of waste collected?
So that we have, every village has a poster, which I've not shown. Every village has a poster. Every village that we work in has a poster which clearly shows what are the different kinds of waste that we collect, and every month how much waste is collected per village. So no, it's a big signboard. It's a big 4x6 thing, and it's kept in 3 places. In each village, we have it in 3 places. But it's a very good thing. I think that what you have touched about visibility, and the government getting something from that visibility is a huge thing, and that is something worth thinking about. Yeah, and I like the idea of the parking thing. I don't see how they're going to give up that golden goose, but it's something worth trying.
Okay, Hattie, we've run out of time, so a big round of applause for Rosalind. Thank you so much. I'll let you into a little secret about Rosalind. She's a woman of many dimensions and parts. She's an entrepreneur herself in a different world, in a parallel life. She runs a very popular and a very interesting jewelry brand called Maya Bazaar, which for 30 years she's been doing this. She designs herself. She works with decentralized women artisans, and it's worth looking at. And she's been around for a very long time. And that's what I know. I don't know. Maybe she does many other things. But of course, they're absolutely grounded and such a fascinating talk and work. And also the questions that came also show that what you were asking in the beginning, that yes, there is a lot of interest. And so again, thank you very much. And we have a little token of appreciation. Shruti, can I request you to, from one Mumbaikar to another? This is the Dastakar Andhra's natural dyed woven scarf. So that's for you, Rosalind. Thank you
so much. Thank you so much. I adore handmade. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for being such a fabulous audience. And I will leave my contact details with Pankaj, and I'm looking forward to interacting with you guys on a personal level and individual level.
And if you have some time, you can hang around, or you might want to, or you need to get back.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, so another 10-15 minutes, if you're around, then if anybody wants to catch up in or outside, we can request her to wait for some time.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
We don't have a study next week. Do you have to? You didn't want? Abhi exam, tabhi to. So we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you, everyone.